Am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's affair to her husband? I, F25, have been friends with Sarah, F26, since we were in high school. We've been through thick and thin together, and she's practically like a sister to me. Sarah has been married to John, M28, for 2 years, and they seemed like the perfect couple. I always envied their relationship and hoped to have something like that one day. A few months ago, Sarah started acting strangely. She was secretive, always on her phone, and frequently lying about her whereabouts. I brushed it off as stress from work or maybe something she wasn't ready to share yet. But then I found out the truth. Sarah was having an affair with a coworker, Mark, M30. I stumbled upon this by accident. One night, Sarah left her phone at my apartment after we had a girls' night. It kept buzzing with messages from Mark, and when I saw the explicit content of their conversation, I felt sick. I confronted Sarah about it the next day. She broke down, admitting everything. She said she didn't love John anymore but was too scared to leave him because of financial stability and fear of judgment from her family and friends. I tried to convince her to end the affair and either work on her marriage or leave John honestly. She promised she would, but weeks went by, and nothing changed. Sarah continued her affair, and I couldn't stand seeing John being deceived. He was a good guy who genuinely loved her, and he deserved to know the truth. After much internal conflict, I decided to tell John. I met him at a coffee shop, explained everything, and showed him the messages I had seen. John was devastated, and I felt like the worst person in the world for being the bearer of such terrible news. He thanked me for telling him and said he would handle it from there. The fallout was massive. John confronted Sarah, and their marriage fell apart. Sarah was furious with me for exposing her secret. She called me a traitor and ended our friendship. Our mutual friends were divided. Some thought I did the right thing, while others believed I had overstepped and ruined lives. Now, months later, Sarah and John are divorced. Sarah moved in with Mark, but their relationship is rocky. John is trying to rebuild his life, but is understandably still hurt. As for me, I've lost one of my closest friends and am left questioning if I did the right thing. So, am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's affair to her husband? Am I the a-hole for canceling my wedding after finding out my fiancé's ex is invited by his family? I, 27F, and my fiancé, Alex, 30M, have been engaged for a year and were planning our wedding for the end of the summer. Everything was going smoothly until a couple weeks ago when Alex's family dropped a bombshell. Alex's family is very close-knit and has always been involved in our wedding planning. Recently, I have found out that they have invited Alex's ex, Sarah, 29F, to the wedding. Alex and Sarah were dating for about 5 years and broke up about 2 years ago. They're still on good terms, but I was never comfortable with the idea of her being at our wedding. When I brought this up to Alex, he said that it's a family tradition to invite former partners if they're still friends, and that it would be rude to exclude her. He insisted that it's no big deal and that Sarah is just a part of their extended social circle. I tried to explain that having Sarah at our wedding made me feel uncomfortable and undermined the significance of the event for me. Alex's response was that I was being unreasonable and selfish for not considering his family's feelings. He argued that it would cause unnecessary drama if we uninvited Sarah now and that we should just focus on enjoying the day. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about inviting an ex, but also about my place in Alex's life and whether I was truly a priority. After a lot of back and forth, I decided that I couldn't go through with the wedding under these circumstances. I canceled the venue and all the plans we had made, explaining to Alex and his family that I couldn't commit to marrying someone who wasn't willing to respect my feelings about such a significant issue. Now, Alex and his family are furious with me. They believe I am overreacting and that I should have been more accommodating. Some of my friends and family think I did the right thing, while others feel I might have acted too impulsively. So, am I the a-hole for canceling my wedding after finding out that my fiancé's ex was invited by his family? Edit. Wow guys, I never expected this post to blow up the way it did. I'm trying to respond to as many comments as I can, but thank you all for the unwavering love and support.
Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? I, 34M, work in a physically demanding field. My co-workers and I are all fit people, without a lot of body type variety. My wife, 32F, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat, and we got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat, and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight, and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world as is. One of my coworkers, Julia, 28F, started complaining that she's too fat to be loved and that fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true, and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her, and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as much. Julia started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife. I put her on speaker and asked if she was curvy or fat. Carol laughed and said, "I hate that curvy shit. Fat and beautiful, baby." I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me. That no woman in her right mind could be okay with their husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself, by the way. She stormed off and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, I just walked in today to an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for fat positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof. But now, things are frigid at work, and Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we're in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here, scratching my head. AITA for calling my wife fat? Edit/update. So I met with HR at 4 today. Apparently, multiple coworkers who had overheard the conversation stopped by HR throughout the day to give their side/weigh in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everyone else had said, too. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog, and our rep, who's a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated the conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding, and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done, and they thanked me for my time. So I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss/body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead.